Welcome to the Better Bank Podcast. I'm Corey Sandiford, political analyst, alongside my co-host, digital strategist, Lucas Garris. Luke, what's good?
Good to have you.
Yeah, I got my multicolored shirt. So y'all see that I got my little red flowers. I got some blue-green leaves and things, so they can't tell me I'm blue and they can't tell me that I'm green. I somewhere in between. I don't really like the party colors thing, as y'all could tell, and I find it kind of silly, but that's the environment we know in, and that brings us to the conversation that we have in here today with our guest, our first female guest, I'd like to know, attorney at law and BLP aspirant, Tyra Trotman. Tyra, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
So Tyra, our interview today kicking off with some good old Bayesian thought processes. Bayesian this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So some people would think you young and you got enough years ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
And to use a Marvel term, there's another timeline where Tyra Trotman, having come from the Democratic Labour Party side, was over by the Dems, and she's, instead of jumping ship, so to speak, and going over to the other side at the earliest opportunity, you stuck it out. You stuck with the party, and you just kind of stayed on the fringes until things shifted more your way. What do you respond to those kind of people?
Well, number one, you're never too young to do anything, right? Oftentimes, I'm the youngest person in the room. I'm not just only the youngest candidate. But I think I want to be an example. I want young people to look at me and feel inspired, to know that you can't put age at anything. Growth has no age limit to it. There are people who were millionaires from the time they were 22, 21 years old. There's one that lives through our gap that he's a streamer, and I don't even think he can't even drive yet, and bought 3 vehicles for his family members because that's what he aspired to do, and he was the best in what he did, and as such he was successful. So never put an age as a limitation. It's not a burden, or you shouldn't feel powerless by it, but you should feel empowered. You're young, you have time, you have the energy, and that is in response to that part. Now, in response to the fact that I just came from the Democratic Party, I think by now, I'm probably a member of the Barbados Labour Party longer than I was a member of the Democratic Labour Party. So let me just clear that up, right? And the only reason why I joined the Democratic Labour Party is because of Dr. Ronnie Yearwood. Let's also make that very clear. Dr. Yearwood, he was my lecturer at UE. And, I'm an advocate because I'm an attorney at law. I was always someone who believed in standing up for things that were right and just. And my mom ain't got the cover, right? So I'm never afraid to stand up to the forefront and say what I have to say. And I remember there was the IDB survey, that controversial survey where we were saying that basically the children's rights and the parents' rights were infringed because you had this survey that was supposed to be about technology, and it ended up being about all things very personal, and there was no consent from the parents. So I went out and I was speaking out against that, saying it was not right. And Dr. Yearwood, he saw that video. And he said, you would make an excellent candidate. And I was like, a candidate of what? He was like, Democratic Party. I was like, no, because I knew of examples where young attorneys, went through politics and they came out not so good, right? Because you're young, you're just starting out. I was called to the bar in 2021. I didn't want to ruin something that I worked really, really hard for, because sometimes politics can be dirty. So, but nevertheless, I was never a coward either. So after Dr. Yearwood explained it to me and said, we really want to take the party into a different direction, because at the end of the day, there is a need for an opposition, not the opposition that is being presented now, because that's not really an opposition. That's just a group of people that keep enough noise. But a real opposition is needed, because in life, everything is a balance, right? You have yin and yang, and you always need that check and balance on anything in life, any power or not. It gets, out of hand sometimes. So I said, what, that makes sense. He wanted to take the party in a different direction, new faces, new voices, new ideas. And I was like, okay, I'm on board. So I came to the forefront. And we were going well, we did well. We did well before our AT came into the picture. And he came into the picture with this thing that, because he's the only one that has a seat, he's supposed to be the end-all, be-all, even though the executive was already established. The members of that political party had already voted who they wanted to be their leader. So we had a strange situation, but not new because I believe it happened before. But we had a situation where we had the political leader and then we had the party leader, which to me are two distinctive roles. Yes, it's usually held by one person, but there's still two different roles. And as such, I did not know for the life of me why we could not get along in terms of me being the youth arm leader, and then Ronnie being the party leader, and then RAT being the political leader. But for some reason, it was murky.
Could I just clarify for the viewers that RAT, I believe we're referring to the current Democratic Party leader by his initials.
Yes.
I don't know what his middle name is, but Ralph Lauren.
Anthony.
Anthony,
Ralph Anthony.
That didn't work out well.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, must you know what was going on, right? So he came on board. It was a gentleman's agreement between Dr. Yearwood and himself that, you're coming on board, we're going to make room for you, but please don't touch certain things. For example, we had the shadow ministers. If you can recall, there were a group of young people who were given different portfolios, and it was our job.
Dr. Yearwood chose his before.
Exactly.
Yes.
So then RAT comes along, and he's like, well, he don't see no point in this. Making a sense is a waste of time and resources. And we found out, just like the rest of Barbados, through the media, that we were basically defrocked, right? And then quick so now, he came up with the spokesperson, which is the same thing, different names, same thing, right? And he did not invite any of us except for Felicia Dujon, and I wouldn't go into that as a whole. That's going to take me another 30 minutes, right? But other than her, there was no one that was asked from Ronnie's side of things to continue advocating on the portfolios they were advocating on. So there was that. And then we had our little, you call it parliamentary meetings, but it's so funny because we were serious about being in opposition. So we had our meetings where we would meet, I believe it was every Tuesday, we would come and we would discuss some of the legislation, being debated and our views on it and stuff like that. And our AT, he hardly ever came. And if he did come, he was on his cell phone the entire time, not interested, never had anything to add to anything. But here now you want to take up a whole party and go forward with it, talking about all these things you talk about now on stage, but in real life, in private life, when you're not on stage, you have no interest, right? Then you had the lockout, but before the lockout, you had the break-in. If you could remember the pictures that were circulating, yes. With a crowbar, you want to break into people's office, right? Take out all the equipment, all the records and everything. I can laugh now because I can't believe that happened, right? Fired everybody who was working in the office under Dr. Yearwood and then hired your own team. So I feel like that should have been a little hint of what was coming next. Then you locked us out because at the conference, at our party's conference, my opponent, he was sitting on the high table, and I believe he was the fourth vice president at the time. He had no right to be at that table because if you expelled the president, then by virtue of order, the first vice president comes after. The first president.
We talking about Senator Andrew World.
Yeah, I don't like to mention it. I'm not giving him any free publicity.
I need to clarify.
I'm not giving him any free publicity. But yeah, so it skipped first, second, and third, went straight on to fourth. When I believe it was the second or the third vice president, Maloney, he was there and he said he wanted to sit at the high table. So my whole thing is, well, this meeting can't go on because you have someone who has more authority than you saying that they wish to take your seat at the table and you're not moving, you're not getting up. So I went to the mic that was in the middle of the floor, and I raised an objection as a form of a point of order. And then my opponent said, turn off your mic. Turn off her mic. Well, plug it out. Turn off her mic. Yes, that was done.
Wow.
It was done. And then I said, well, I don't need a microphone because my voice is loud enough. It can carry. And I continued to say what I had to say. And then we had a rally. Nothing aggressive, nothing, there was no physical violence or anything of the sort. There was the clapping of hands and the chanting. I'm sure we saw those videos as well.
Definitely.
It was a protest. Nothing new to Barbados, right? And then you call the police. RAT called the police, the Barbados Police Service that got homicides and things out there to solve. And you calling them on your members and wanted to get us arrested. And I told the police, no, you do not have any jurisdiction in this matter because there's nothing criminal here. This is members and it's party, so all y'all can do really stand up and watch.
That's why you bring the attorney present. I just want to point out for our viewers before we came on, we were talking to Tyra about her voice and having to make it through the campaign and speak on the campaign nightly, but we got her warm now. She going. Look, I want to get your thoughts on Tyra speaking with us about so far before I go into the next question.
I really am impressed as to, I guess, the background on you as a advocate and you as a political representative, and I guess how your feet were already in, in the entire atmosphere and how you navigated it, especially
Tested by fires.
yes, really feet in the fire and really navigate. I was not really. I guess people could look on now and say, simplify it into you just move from one party to the next, but it was like a series of things, a series of actions that would have led you to
exactly.
So my next question, I can't wait to hear a response to this one as a lead on from the first question, which is whether people would see you as being opportunistic and coming over from the Democrat Labour Party side to the LP side when an election was believed to be imminent. So where does your sense of credibility before voters come from?
So for me, it wasn't about an election because I became a member of the Barbados Labour Party November 8th, 2024. That was the official day that I became a member. Way before nomination, way before election. And my alma mater called me, where's school? Best school in the world. Up and on. Is in Waterford. And Waterford is in St. Michael Central. So other than my hometown, which would be in Christchurch South, RAT.
Yeah.
It was like, where else can I lend or pay myself for? Because at the end of the day, is that you've gained so much with this free education. You're an attorney at law now, you're your own boss, I have my own practice, and you're comfortable. How can I give back or pay forward? And my thing was, I might as well, do what I believe is a calling, because I didn't have this thing in my mind, I want to be a politician. I never aspired to be a politician. I just wanted to be a representative. Okay. And if you get the call, and that's what you're truly about, you're not going to turn it down. But if the institution that you were trying to do it with locked you, there's no clear message that I do not want you or we do not want you, then locking you out in the hot sun and the rain, because it rained that day too. There's no clear message. So what do? Do you just stand up before those gates and be truly the gate and be pitiful and hope that someone opens it for you? Or will you walk away with your self-respect and dignity and go elsewhere? Because when one door closes, another one opens. It's just like if we go to work, quite literally. Yeah. It's like if you go to work, every day you're going to work, you custom using your swipe card to get in the building. And one day your swipe card stopped working, right? And then you realize quick, so afterwards you get a letter saying that you're no longer wanted at this institution. What are you going to do? Are you not going to move on and look for somewhere else to offer your services?
You're not going to stand up outside the door.
Of course not.
In the car or waiting for somebody to come to let you in. You don't know about your business.
Exactly. So if you can't see my value, what you want me to do? Stand and fight with you? No, please. I move on.
Well, Tyra Trotman, I have a quote here that I pulled from the internet. Tyra Trotman is a, quote, unwavering advocate for justice and accountability. She has called for political parties to prioritize quality over theatrics, substance over sensationalism, and service over self-interest, which all sound great. But what concessions do you realistically have to make if and when you actually hold, what concessions do you realistically expect to make, have to make if you actually hold elected office?
So when I hold elected
office, okay. I love it.
Yeah, so as I told my constituents, I've been in constituency for the past 20 months. I've listened to their concerns and I formulated an initiative based on their concerns. So it's not something that I just concocted, dreamed of, or whatever the case may be. I actually listened to what the people wanted, and I'm giving them a product that they have demanded. You understand? So the whole FIRM initiative is an umbrella initiative, but it's spelled FERM because it's an acronym. F is for faith and family, because I've realized now some young people, they're straying away from God. Not in the religious sense, like, oh, every Sunday, whatever, you have to go to church, but just having that moral compass to know what is right from wrong. Something as simple as the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think we need to start living with those ethical values again, and that will help with crime, because I hear all the talks and everything, right? But when a man got something made up in his mind, it's hard for you to get that out. So it all starts up here, mindset, mentality. And I think that faith is one of those things that will help shape that mindset. Then we have family. You heard I'm an attorney at law, so the family court is no, strange place for me. And I watched families literally tearing each other apart because they don't get along, they don't agree, they're no longer together, using children as weapons of mass destruction. And then when you have children growing up and the parents are fighting each other, what do you think can happen? The men will go on the block and look for love from the big man on the block, because at the end of the day, that's the only body showing him attention or giving him support. Even men can go on and get in all kind of relationships and situations they ought not to be in, because they're looking for love in all the wrong places. And I was once that woman, so I know what I'm speaking of. So we need to bring, and I will bring resources into St. Michael Central that are going to tackle those issues in terms of, psychologists, therapists, counselors, and then working closely with the church. In the manifesto, you heard the government is going to give $5 million worth of funding to all faith-based institutions. So this isn't just talk. We are actually doing these things. When it comes to education and empowerment, education is the key for financial freedom. It levels the playing field. Whether you're from the ghetto or the heights, if you go to school, you get a good education, you get your certificates, you can become someone in life. Look at me. My mother, she was a foreigner. She came here with nothing. She built herself up. I got my education, and now I'm an attorney at law 5 years called today with my own practice. That is what education was able to do to me and for me. But not just that, not just academics. I'm talking education if you want to be an athlete, you want to engage in professional sports. We want to help work with you, because football and cricket and tennis and all these things can make a lot of money if you take it serious. If you have green fingers and you want to get into agriculture, that's the type of education we want to hone as well. Empowerment, lots of small businesses in my constituency who need the support, who need the marketing, who need the promotion. We have the Beijing-based website that you heard is coming very soon. It's in our manifesto. But me also want to work with the shop owners and the beauticians and the barbers and whoever else in my constituency to help give them the tools to grow, empower themselves, and then empower others around them. When it comes to our rehab and reform, we want to work with persons who need a second chance, not judging them, who may have walked a dark path before and gotten into some trouble, but they're willing to change now because they realize this wasn't a good idea. So you heard the 14,000 courses being offered through Coursera with the NTI. Those are now being offered to inmates, so that while you're there on remand, you can learn something, come out, reintegrate into society, and basically don't go back where you come from. Right?
Citizen.
Yes, I'll work with the Barbados Police Service to identify those troublemakers out there, because I want to get to you before you even get to the courts. I want to show you there's a different way. Sometimes all these young boys or young girls need is love, support, attention, and just some mentorship. There is another way, because sometimes in life when you're not exposed to something, you may not know it exists. So once again, changing mindsets. And mental health, music, movement is sports, like I said, whether it is the football, the tennis, cricket, or whether it's the dominoes, the drafts, and the cards for the elderly. Music, my first love. I was a signed artist and national artist at SRP Records in New York, so music has always been my first love. And there are lots of creatives out there that need the support. I say all the time, we have talent, but we do not necessarily have the institution or the framework to harvest that talent and produce a product that can sell. That's the thing. And then we have the mental health, which I touched on earlier as well. So that's my plan.
Tyra, really, if your initiatives are successful, I
Right.
really applaud. I really applaud you. I gotta get the chance. I really applaud you, because this men on the block, and again the love for the block that I heard you talk about just now, this is really something that I've been hearing talked about for the last at least 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more of my political awareness than anything else. And it has not progressed significantly in Barbados, so that's something that I would look for with interest to see if those programs are successful. Luke, you want to come in here before?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was saying that with a lot of programs, I would say Wilfred has to look out, because it's clear that you're got in for next.
How you insist? How you insist that I call him Dr. Wilfred?
I do like, because it's like you don't expect a plan necessarily to be cohesive, but that it does cover multiple areas. I do like the mental health, because we normally don't hear that on a platform perspective. I do like the inclusion of the arts with the music. I do like the same thing you talked about, recidivism, in the way that, because people would say that men will go to DOS and they'll be like criminal university, when learn new bad skills and stuff like that. So it's like, it's good to, because again with those people as well, you get thrown away with society. You've done whatever small big crime, and like that's a wrap for you. So it's good to be able to look at ways to incorporate them back into society, to give them. I do love the initiative by NTI with the Coursera, because I have friends who did some of those courses, and it's good. It's good to be able to get certificates, stand at home, you're not doing anything, you could get a whole set of certificates and stuff to do. So I think it's a good government initiative. It's good that it's now being pushed on a political platform. And I mean, people have had questions for me on Twitter with regards to, I think it's the family element, not the family element, the faith element in the government putting the 5 million into faith-based initiatives. So people were asking, like, genuine questions, why would it be going into the church and other faith-based organizations as opposed to community organizations? But I do remember the manifesto did have something with regards to community organizations, and but you will have to speak to that. The only explanation that I had for people with regards to why we're going to faith-based initiatives or institutions is because the church has been at the core of Barbadian community for how many ever years, and that's not, even though people in the church may have declined, I could definitely see how it would still be there. It would still have, especially when it speaks towards the BLP's core set of people, and that is somebody they want to appeal to. We've been seeing that's somebody they want to appeal to in this election. So, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Well, just before you come in, Tyra, and I will point out to the viewers too that she gave me consent to call her by her first name. Since we're talking about calling people by the first name, I want to keep it real. We in a manifesto national stage of conversation right now as we head towards speed towards the election. As we record this, we're 5 days before the election comes next week, Wednesday. So the question that I wanted to pose to you is, if you really and sincerely, quote unquote, advocate for education and a rehabilitation focused approach to crime, including collaboration with law enforcement to identify at-risk individuals early and provide them with pathways for reform before they become entrenched in the criminal justice system, some of the things we were just speaking about. What happens if you get elected and you're given an assignment that takes you away from that type of work?
Like, give me an example.
Well, if you are given a portfolio that has nothing to do with crime or reform,
blue and green economy, or
anything like that.
But I don't need a portfolio to do anything. I've been doing things without a portfolio. I've been doing things out of my own pockets. So I think once the care is there, you will find a way. It's as simple as that. So if I'm given a portfolio of finance, God forbid, because I'm not good with numbers at all, right? But let's say that's my portfolio. And then, but I'm still the MP of my area, and people coming to me with social issues. You think I'm going to tell them, well, no, you're going to find somebody else because I ain't interested in that? No, I will connect you to whoever I need to connect you to. We're just a message away, a phone call away. So I don't think, and I don't know, maybe that's a mindset that is out there, but just because you're attached to a certain portfolio, or even from a certain constituency, somebody else approaches you, don't say, well, you're in my constituency, so I'm not helping you. You pass on the information to your colleague. And I think that's what makes the Barbados Labour Party very different. Because we are one family, we're one team. We are always together. We pray together, we eat together, and we're working together for the people of Barbados. And we're running one campaign, whereas the other side seems to be running about 5 or 6 different campaigns. Because even if you look at their posters, different fonts, different this, and then you heard their manifesto supposed to be launching in St. John's, where that people can't even get to. So why would you do that? We had ours in the city. Right? Even though the Prime Minister, that's not the Prime Minister's seat, but she put it in the city so that persons from all over Barbados can access that manifesto launch. And speaking of manifestos, have you seen a Democratic Labour Party manifesto? Have you, Shaggy?
I would like to. Really
and we're 5 days away from the election.
It's supposed to launch tomorrow.
It was supposed to launch
on Wednesday.
Exactly.
And launch and push it back to
So
Saturday.
who's ready? Who is ready?
No, like I say, it's not a good look. Well, I wanted to talk to you before you leave us today about, let's face it, we to the stage of government now where we gotta talk about this BLP government that you would be joining. Should they be retained in office? Should they be re-elected?
All the language, Let's give space for the voters to make a decision that they want to make.
You're an attorney, you get it. Anyhow, should they be re-elected? We're at a stage now where they would be in the 7.5 years. I think it's a little bit more than 7.5. So you will be joining now as a new MP in a government now that's been sitting since 2018. So now at the stage of governance where they are, we're talking about, we can start hearing conversation about accountability and transparency. I just want to know where you will come into that conversation as a young MP, the youngest, I believe, in the party, where you will come into that conversation.
So I've always held the government regardless accountable.
Mm-hmm.
As if you know me, you know,
Mm.
right? I'm not afraid to say what I have to say. Whereas now it may not necessarily be in a public forum because there's certain rules you have to comply with. But for sure, they will be hearing my voice. Because even though there's no real opposition out there, it doesn't mean you can't have an opposition voice in the government because you're not perfect. Well, if you even in personal life, you have friends around you. If you don't got your friends to tell you, listen, you're doing foolishness, but you don't got no friends. So I take that same sort of mindset into governance. I should be able to tell any of my colleagues, listen, that ain't making much sense. We need to maybe reword that, reformat that. Let's think about these people. Like, I don't think you thought about these people when you were putting that policy forward. Let's go back to the drawing board and get it right before we even release it. And then let's have the consultation we need to have with different stakeholders, see what they feel or what they think about it, and then let's craft it in the way that we need to. I think that's me being a part of the government now is not going to change who I inherently am. And that's someone that believes in justice. So if I see foolishness happening, best believe them can hear me for sure. They will hear my voice on it. And young people, me being young myself, I know what young people are going through. You know, I haven't made it per se, so I'm still out there struggling like everybody else, the normal day-to-day struggles. So you will hear my position on that as well. You know, I'm not thinking about electric cars and all these fancy things. I'm thinking about the bread and butter issues, the cost of living, the crime, the healthcare, the job opportunities. Those are things that I live with day to day, and those are the things that I will be interested in advocating.
Luke, your thoughts?
I think that is good. I'm glad you said bread and butter issues because I think in this session at least we've gone around to be able to talk about that, or we haven't got much of a chance to talk about that with regards to policies of the BLP. I will confess I have not read through all the manifestos, so I cannot speak to exactly what the manifesto speaks to with regards to bread and butter issues, but this is also what I've been hearing from young people online, that this is the key issues facing them for this election. The same job opportunities, the same price of goods in the supermarket, the same cost of healthcare, the rising cost of living. Those are the issues that they face going into this next election.
Yeah, that's that people feel on a deep personal level, on the streets level. As we were having conversation before we came on here, what people feel affects them on a day-to-day basis as opposed to just building the data site raises on the coast, receive visitors and so on. You want to know that the tourism product is good, but at the same time, we're at an age and stage now in terms of this government where people want to know how is this election going to make a difference for me, as opposed to just making the tourism product good, as opposed to building on a wing to the hospital and those kinds of things. So it's been great having a conversation about that today. I really feel as though I've been enlightened and learned some things about Tyra Trotman that I did not know. I did not know. I thought that you were a person, the way you spoke about wanting to become an attorney is how I thought that you were about wanting to become in politics. I thought that's something that you possibly dreamed of from young, and you got in there as at your earliest opportunity, and then saw where to go. It just happened like
it
that.
happened. My love for people, I think that I always say, and it might sound cliche, but I'm a soldier in God's army, and I think He calls for the people when the time is right. And now has just been my time, that's all. And as you heard, we're a team for the times. I don't know what the future holds, but there must be a reason that I am here. I strongly believe in my life, everything happens when it's supposed to and exactly how it's supposed to. So I know that I am right for whatever journey that we're supposed to go on in the future.
What I'm impressed by is that you're still, as you're new, but you're not new to the party, but you still are able to say a lot of party stuff that presents the party very much as a cohesive vision, whereas anybody, I think we would have mentioned this on previous podcasts, the campaign from the DLP doesn't seem as cohesive, and I think that is what they were missing. That is what even before the conversation we had with Ronnie, we were saying that Dr. Year the conversation we had with Dr. Year, his vision for the DLP was something I think a lot of young people were beginning to buy into because it was new faces, it was fresh blood, it was a fresh outlook. So then people feeling cohesive. It was not coming forward, everybody under the same banner. But I think, just as you would have mentioned earlier, a lot of people haven't gotten over the way that leader opposition Ralph Thorne has with the lockout and like stalwarts of the party, like Annie Whitaker and those being on the outside, and like how would that look, how does that seem if these are people that was in the DLP from every long thing steps on the outside of the gate, and then that whole rupture, and then obviously then the conversation on the other side would be like, if you can't even steward your own party in unity, what will you do with the country?
And if you can't even follow your own party's constitution,
Nope.
how are you going to follow the Constitution of Barbados?
Yeah.
If you can't even manage the tokens at your own meeting to ensure that the lights are not turned off, how do you want the public to trust you managing the public purse? And we can go on and on and on.
So you talked about not being able to see the future, but let's talk about the next 5 days. Still the future, but short. What do you see happening for the rest of this campaign for you that's remaining? Short things remaining to us on election day.
So I'm just going to continue to build the relationship with the people. I always say, when people say, man, you're going to be good, you got this, I always say it is in God's hands. Because at the end of the day, if it is God's will, there is no man that can stop it. I'm just putting my best foot forward with what I do, whatever I do in life. Whether it's music, whether it's law, whether it's my personal life, I put my best foot forward. So that is what I'm doing. I think that when people meet me, they feel the authenticity, they feel that, you know, I ain't just pretending, I ain't just talk, they feel the passion. So I'm getting a really warm reception. I know the people know me, they've seen me around, I've been able to do things, as I said already, out of my own pockets. I'm waiting for nobody to come and help me help people. I do it myself, and as such, I think that I'm going to be okay. But you never know. We will see. And if it is, according to your word, if it is that the Democratic Labour Party is the one to take the seat for St. Michael Central, then so be it. But I will continue to doing the work that Tyra Trotman needs to do to ensure that the people of St. Michael Central are not left out or forgotten.
Last thoughts before you leave us in terms of the future. Should you be the one to take the St. Michael Central seat? And being kind of the youngest person out there, the future of politics, how do you see that going? You personally and the trajectory of Barbadian politics.
So I've been hearing about voter apathy. Yeah, and for me, I want to be able to attract young people, being young myself, to politics. Because I hear a lot of young people say, oh, politics ain't my thing, but it needs to be your thing, because politics is policies, and policies is decisions which are made on your behalf. They affect you.
You can't not.
Exactly. So as I was explaining to a young person the other day, whether or not you vote, a decision will be made.
Here we go. That is it.
But I'm imploring you, since you have a right and you have a say-so, to make it count, to inform yourselves. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just take Madam PM's word for it. The information is available online. It's available hard copy. We have the red record. We have the manifesto. And then all the information you can think of is online as well. So you can go on the red record, 137 pages, promises kept, A to Z. Go online and do your own research.
I feel the people running already. That's good to read. Anyhow,
we need to read as a people, because that's how you educate yourself, right? Go online, match it up, fact check, see if what we're saying is true. Read the manifesto, read about all the glorious plans we have, whether it's the $400 million investment in the expansion in QEH, whether it's the reverse tax credit increasing from $1,300 to $1,700, whether it is the low VAT on the healthy foods or the baby items, whether it's the zero rated products, the sanitary products, whether it's the tampons, the sanitary towels, whether it is the fund, the child wealth fund that you're getting now, which is $5,000. Exactly. Once you birth the child, November 30th, 2021 or thereafter, they have something to look forward to in the future. Whether it is the pensioners credit that they're getting $1,200 per year to help with the cost of living. All those things are things we're doing. The flyovers, we talked about that in the manifesto to help with the ease in the traffic. So these are things we're taking Barbados forward. You heard the PM mention the first few years was about healing, was about patching up and restoring or recovering from the lost decade. It's just like when you buy a vehicle, you want to paint it, you want to put rims on it, you want to put a stereo in it. But then when you get it, you realize there are mechanical issues, there are electric issues. What you gotta start with first? The electric and the mechanical issues, because that is what keeps the car moving. Although you want to paint it up and make it look fancy. And then when you get over that, when the car is actually taking you from A to B, then we can start thinking about painting the car, putting on the rims, and putting in the sound system. It's the same thing when it comes to the country.
Yeah, I completely understood what she said on the manifesto platform when she was talking about, when she was describing for critics the timeline. So it got in 2018, and you had to deal with the problems left over from the previous decade. You
Yeah.
had to clear out all of those, your credit downgrades, all of those. Then you come to the second election. Then after the second election, you got to deal with COVID, and then you knock on effect from that. So then I could understand the argument that this election now would be kind of paving the way for prosperity. And it's like, and she did admit there were criticism. She did admit that there were things that they got wrong.
You don't mean Tyra.
I don't mean Tyra. I mean Prime Minister Miyamaki. Oh my God.
Then we don't call it Prime Minister by her first name. We just say she. People are to understand that. That's
On
what we
the
mean.
manifesto platform, Prime Minister Miyamaki did say yes that she understood that there were challenges. She outlined what the challenges were for her administration. She outlined what the challenges, how she outlaid the different years, the different administrations, the different parliamentary terms, what she would have done, and then what she has planned for 2026 and forward, and what direction she plans to take the country in. And what I do like is that the language in the manifesto moved away from what it was in 2022, where it was like, this is just a collection of ideas, into these are promises now. These are things that we want to do. The promises, the covenant, things that we want to keep, things that we want to do going forward, which is more helpful than just pie in the sky ideas, because obviously there were ideas in the last manifesto, like putting the islands off the coast of Carlisle Bay and dredging the area in the sand to create a lagoon down by St. Lawrence Gap. Those were pie in the sky ideas that people immediately identify were bad. But what I like about this manifesto, at least what I can appreciate from it coming out of the BLP, is that these are covenants, and then these are grounded in reality, and you can hold us to account for that. And with the A to Z record, you can hold us to account with that. The same thing you talk about. You can look at it, you can fact check it. This is what we did over the last couple of years. You can say, you did this, but you didn't do that. You could do this, and you didn't do that. The same thing with the apathy conversation. I've been telling young people, as you say, whether you get involved or not, somebody's making a decision.
Yes.
So it's like, you need to be involved. You need your voice to be heard, and it's not, again, not a one-time instance where you just vote and that's it, and you expect the party to figure out, the government to figure out, and then you throw your hands in the air and say this government doing nonsense. But you are in a silo online, in the Nation News comment, in a TBC comment, in the Best of Barbados comment, and then it doesn't go anywhere beyond that. And then the politicians are not looking at these comment sections. Neither are the PSs, neither are people in the ministry, neither are people in the party. Nobody's tabulating it to hand it over to say this is what people are saying. They wouldn't know. So then if you don't engage beyond a Twitter, a Instagram, a Facebook, a TikTok.
So they need to come out, and that's why we had our public forums. You know, you had the different parish speaks, and then you had the youth forums.
The youth forums,
come forward, don't be afraid. We don't bite. Come forward and lend your voice in the cause.
That's the sorry.
The idea forums too as well. The parish speaks evolved into, but I think a lot of people are, I guess, afraid of having the face on camera and being afraid of seeing to say the wrong thing. But there are platforms and there are initiatives put forward that the party, the government is looking to engage with young people. So you can't have people put forward stuff and you're not engaging and then say the government doesn't represent your interests if you don't engage. But conversely, I would say to the party that there also needs to be a mechanism that is, I guess, is less online in your face. You can't have anonymous submission because you get a lot of nonsense, but there must be some mechanism, possibly a digital mechanism.
Well, you can visit your local representative.
That is true. I have gotten people say, I don't want to call the names, but in certain parishes they wouldn't see, like these 25, 28, 29-year-olds not seeing the representatives, but at the same time I would say to them, you're not going to your representative, so you can't find them. So like, I know where medic is, I go down often and say, I'm looking for medic, you know. I'm looking for Natasha not medic, I'm looking for he. But people don't engage with their representatives like that. That's also the problem.
Well, in giving your final thoughts, y'all are exactly what I wanted to ask Tyra for, and her giving her final thoughts as we close the interview. Like, if there are any specific mechanisms in terms of this vote apathy conversation and engaging young people in particular outside of the what is it, public speaks?
The parish speaks.
Yes. Outside of those, are there any other mechanisms that you advocate for?
Well, I can speak for myself, right? So for me personally, I'm planning to build a website for my constituents where you can go on and they will have a chat box. So you can leave your issues, your concerns, because I don't believe that you have to leave where you are to come to my office just to speak with me. What I've been doing also is sharing out a number that I have for my constituents where they can directly call me, message me, contact me with any issues, concerns they might have. I've also been walking around, going door to door to door with my blue, but the only thing blue I have left. And taking the concerns. So I have that book there, and I literally treat it like my Bible. I would would wake up every morning, go through that book, and I see, okay, this was done, check. This has not yet been done. How can I get this done? Those type of things. But also, I'm going to create a council, an advisory council. In my particular constituency, we have 9 polling districts. So there's going to be a representative from each polling district. And then that representative can choose then persons from, so it will be broken out into streets. So you polling district, they will choose one person from each street who will report to them, and then they will report to me, and we will meet ever so often. I don't know my schedule now, so I can't say that we once a month, twice a month, but definitely more than 4 times a year, so that I can keep being engaged, not just around elections. So I keep knowing what are the problems, what is being done, what's not being done. And it's not only problems, what are some ideas? Give me ideas. You know, what do you hope to see happen in the community, and see how we can work to make that a reality. So those are 2 things that I plan to do in my constituency. I can't speak for the others, but that is what I plan to do.
Tyra Murray, thank you for being on today.
No problem.
She's well supported today with her family, and I want to thank you for being on and had a great conversation with you. This has been Better Bim.